Capturing the spirit of early 2000s gaming using the power of today's technology should take the industry by storm. So when I came across this game way back in 2016, I was surprised to find out it was a new franchise, born completely out of a project only ever meant for internal release. Hello, I'm Jack, and this is Grow Home, and it might just be the best game you've never played. If you're an epic-based gamer like myself, the fourth quarter of each year is usually the time to get excited. Studios churning out releases, all hoping to capitalise on the masses trying to prove their love to their children by splashing the cash at Christmas. Of course, it's a bit of hyperbole, but it's still partly true, and it's a big part of the reason why games that have every right to flop this year will likely be financial successes. In my ambiguous length of time on Earth, this year has probably been the most disastrous for releases that I've ever seen. The backlash from Vanguard, Battlefield 2042 and the GTA Definitive Editions have proved that you can't simply rely on the name of your brand to sell games anymore. We're now living in an age where AAA games don't guarantee AAA quality. So if you're tired of being sold on false promises, the predatory nature of battle passes, or the general lack of attention that comes with free DLC, then I have something different for you to try. I've broken this video into a few sections so you can have a squiz at each of the elements in whatever order you please. With any luck, you'll find it a comprehensive breakdown on why I think this game is worth your time. And it feels obvious at this point, but spoiler alert, I guess, even though I don't think that it really matters because it's the whole point of the video, but some people are still weird about it, so there you go. So let's get the ball rolling with one of, if not the biggest questions that you probably have right now. What is it? Put simply, a red robot goes rock climbing to grow a huge plant into the atmosphere to take the seeds and regrow its home planet. Besides sounding like a Borat sequel, I'd say it's a pretty accurate description, minus my humorous summary, but don't let that distract from how fresh the premise is. It's a welcome break from the endless tide of first-person shooters and battle royales, that's for sure. So, this is Bud, the aforementioned droid with some serious main character syndrome going on. Bud, which stands for Botanical Utility Droid, has been dropped onto the unnamed planet by Mom, a mothership who keeps you company via on-screen text at different points in the game. Mom, or MOM, doesn't stand for anything, just in case you were curious. It's a nod to Hal from 2001: A Space Odyssey and Mother from Alien. On your travels, you encounter many strange animals and plants which can all be scanned and catalogued for your educational pleasure later on. The core elements of the gameplay revolve around getting from point A to point B by climbing and growing a big plant that resembles a... Anyway, back to the gameplay. I mentioned rock climbing earlier, which is the most prominent method of locomotion in the game. The controls for that are probably the biggest gripe that new players seem to have. You've got to use the triggers to control the grip of Bud's hands, and to be honest, it did take me a little bit of time to get used to. The majority of the few negative reviews on Steam are also about the controls, so it's clearly not to everybody's taste. If you're more used to procedural-based games or simulators, it might come a little more naturally to you, but I found that it took me a little bit of time to figure out exactly what it was that I needed to do. It can be challenging at times, but that's part of the fun, and there's a real sense of reward once you become fluent in the controls. Once you start collecting the many crystals hidden around the map, you can unlock various abilities which can help out when you're climbing or jumping, like a jetpack, which is especially helpful if you can't be bothered to climb all the time. For the more environmentally conscious among you, you can always use glide leaves or fall flowers. You simply remove them from the ground, and there you have it, primitive flight. While you're getting used to the swaying camera and the stumbling robot, you'll be certain to take in eyefuls of the scenery, compliments of the impressive render distance. Huh? Yeah, look at that. That's pretty good. Being able to see everything around you gives you an advantage when you're mantling and a good perspective of where you've been and where you're going. Only if you're interested, that is. You can totally wing it if you want. It is a free country after all, but I'd definitely recommend having some sort of game plan. When you inevitably make a mistake and plummet a great distance, it's nice to be able to survey the view before you hit the ground at light speed. The eagle-eyed among you may have spotted the glowing blue crystals that I mentioned earlier. They sort of function as a side quest, unlocking mods that generally improve the playing experience. Jetpacks, new camera distances, and if you're determined enough, collecting all of the crystals gives you infinite fuel. If you'd like an extra challenge, you can try to complete the game without collecting any at all. I'd say it is possible, but you might want to get the experience of at least one playthrough just to get a good grip on everything before you go out at hammer and tongs. Speaking of getting a grip, no pun intended, you'll need to become acquainted with our friend, Mr. the Star Plant, if you want to get from level to level. Just gotta scale the sides, grab the bulging red tip shoots, and hold on for dear life as you career through the air towards these floating islands. They act like steroids and juice up the main stalk to enlarge it. Wonder if it's the same thing that I keep getting pop-up ads for. Anyway, you should probably keep your eye out for the telerouters as you progress vertically, because they will save you a lot of time if you do happen to take a pratfall. They serve a couple of purposes. Firstly, you can whiz from point to point once you activate them, but you can also drag wildlife inside for your little databank science homework. At a first glance, you might think that it's a game for kids based on the graphics alone, but it's far more calculated than just using simple designs for simple minds. It's a deliberate choice with strong influences in the world of digital art. Art director Jack Kuvela said of the visuals that he wanted every surface in Grow Home to have the same soft, velvety look. One of the key aspects this plays into is the models for Bud and the world around him. Jack also addressed this on a Steam post, saying that he wanted to make a strict distinction between Bud being mechanical and alien to the world compared to all the organic plant and animal life that he discovers. So everything organic is made of tris and everything mechanical is made of quads. Despite the challenges in working with low polygon models, the team still managed to make everything feel cohesive and fluid. Bud, Mom and the telerouters are all red, a striking contrast to the greens, blues, browns and yellows that make up all of the organic models. Having such a striking colour difference across the landscape really adds to the idea that he is an alien in the world, even though the world is somewhat familiar to us. The world itself is composed of 4 distinct levels. We'll call them Ground, Level 1, Level 2 and Space, because it's completely logical and I make the rules around here. Each level has its own ecosystem for you to explore, so if you feel like getting all National Geographic or turning into David Attenborough, break a leg. Levels 1 and 2 each have a hole in the middle so you can freefall all the way from space through each biome after completing the main quest. If you are feeling particularly spiteful, it would even be possible to teleroute with an animal and yote it from the edge of space back down to the ground. I don't know why you'd want to do that though, you should probably see a shrink. I would however recommend taking a glide leaf or a fall flower with you whenever you're climbing, just in case. The higher up you get, the more you can make use of that render distance that I spoke about earlier, but soaking up the scenery wouldn't be complete without some sound, ain't that right? We've looked at the gameplay and the visuals, so it only makes sense to wrap up with the audio in this game. I find that in-game music and audio in general can be hit or miss. I normally listen to Spotify when I game, unless it's a game with a lot of talking that I need to pay attention to. Grow Home is brilliantly backed with endless ethereal synths which soundtrack the game with a super relaxing ambience. It just about covers the low end in the game and can be perforated by environmental noises like buds squawking, water flowing, or the star plant groaning. There's a clever side to scoring the game in such a way, and that's the ability to make the most of directional sound. Of course, most games do that, but being able to stand on a floating rock and hear a telerouter beacon somewhere in the distance and knowing that it's your next safe area, that's pretty cool. If there were music playing, you probably wouldn't be able to integrate it anywhere near as effectively. It's not just the telerouters that utilise the audio though, it's the crystals as well. You can get the crystal detection icon, but that will only tell you how close you are to one, and unless you want to search for it by sight, which is fine, all power to you, it's a hell of a lot easier just to follow your ears. The saying less is more comes to mind when I'm playing, and it's easy to pass over these things when you're not putting thought into it, but it's clear that even the most minor of details are deliberate and calculated. I suppose when you have a small project, it's a lot easier to keep tabs on how each object is relevant to the gameplay and to each other. Oh, you can also self-destruct by the way. I didn't mention that earlier, but you can. I appreciate that good audio design isn't normally at the forefront of people's minds when buying a game, but trust me when I say that you'll notice when it's missing. Luckily, I think this game is exceptional, so you're okay. If it isn't abundantly clear by now, I think this game is an incredible marriage of the visual arts and programming, but don't just take a homie's word for it, go and get your hands on it. If you're a long-time PlayStation Plus subscriber, and I'm talking back in 2015-2016, you might already have it lurking around in your library. There are many different aspects of video games that appeal to each of us, and it's clear that our experiences growing up do have a bearing on our taste. But I suppose that's typical across most elements of day-to-day life. There will be some among you who play games like this regularly and some who wouldn't ordinarily go out of their way to. With any luck, this video will have given you reasons to have a look at the very least. If you did want to get your hands on a copy, I put links in the pinned comment as to where you can pick it up. At less than £10, $10 and less than 2 gigs, it's truly a steal. And if you do get it because of this video, drop a comment and let me know what you think about it. Regardless of your usual genre, I'm confident that Grow Home might just be the best game you've never played. So, in the immortal words of ABBA, if you must grow home and your star plant seeds are sown, but you want 3D, take a chance on me. Thank you.